Hey, this is the World Advice Channel 2. What I want to talk about today is the topic of would the world be better off without America as a superpower? So for this video, I'm going to explain in a simple and straightforward way without any biases attached to the question of would we actually across the world, for literally every nation outside of America, would we really be better off and even happier without America as a superpower? Is what I'll be discussing today in a simple and straightforward way, so even those who aren't familiar with this topic can understand it, okay? So now I mentioned that, let's get started. So when it comes to answer that question, simply put it, believe it or not, even though I'm left-wing and I have a lot of white supremacist views, and I'm very critical of white people and culture, especially white American culture and so on and so forth, as you can see through my videos, I actually believe the world is actually better off with America as a superpower, and it would actually suck more if America was not a superpower, okay? Now, that might come as a surprise to you for the reasons I just previously mentioned, but the truth of the matter is, the thing when it comes to the reason why I think the world is better off with America as a superpower, it simply comes down to different reasons, but I would definitely say there's two fundamental reasons why the world is better off with America as a superpower, okay? So that's what I'll be getting to for this video in depth, as well as a lesson that you can learn towards the end of this video, okay? So now that I mentioned that, let me explain my first point, okay? So when it comes to my first reason why I feel the world would be worse off if America was a superpower, it simply comes down to the fact that America creates a culture that is obsessed with excess, okay? Things that, let's be honest and keep it 100% real with you, we take so for granted here in North America, whether you're American or even Canadian like myself, like everything from being able to live in a house that's actually pretty decently sized, like that's quite big, to maybe a house that, that not only is big but has a lot of things in it, like electronics and technology and stuff, and of course, most importantly, AC, which European countries don't really have much of at all, to even just straight up being able to have an excess amount of things, whether it could be an excess amount of like clothing you can wear and stuff, or even bigger places like events if you want to go to events and stuff, and of course even down to something like food, like being able to eat. They eat a huge amount of food, like for crying out loud, before inflation even came around, like you could literally eat everything from the level of flavor to even, for crying out loud, the portion sizes that kings in the past, literal kings couldn't really be able to appreciate, okay? Literal kings, not just down to the level of flavor, but even how big the portion sizes, were, okay? Like kings wouldn't even be able to eat that well all the time. Yes, they could eat very well, of course, no shit, and have portion sizes as big or bigger, but not as consistently, for that matter, okay? So to sum things up, to make things simple, you can literally eat like a king, for crying out loud, okay? For literally like $10 for the longest time. Literally like a burger meal, with like a large fries, large drink, all that stuff, for literally $10. When it comes to level of flavor and just even portion sizes that only kings in the past would have been able to do, for crying out loud, okay? That is how good life used to be, in the past, and a lot of that stuff, all of those things I mentioned previously, and even just straight up quantified to the middle class, which was actually throughout history, was completely unheard of. The idea that everyday people, the majority of people, can actually live lives that are actually enjoyable and not ones full of constant turmoil, chaos, and suffering, and actually be able to travel to other parts of the world, be able to eat food that doesn't suck and stuff, and all that type of stuff. All of that is because of America, okay, for crying out loud, okay? So in short, to some of my opinions, the ability to live a quality of life as good as we live now is due to America. And I just feel like if we kind of had America lose the spotlight, let's just say China maybe replaced America for a superpower, I just feel like what's going to happen is we're just going to have a situation where pretty much Britain is going to be, of course, the country that is supposed to represent the Western world, pretty much the world outside of Asia, thing about the British, even though of course, the British obviously play their mark and country into the world, and you can even tell the language I'm speaking is from the British. To be honest with you, I just don't know if they were to run the world, our quality of life would be better, because British people have a way of thinking, where where they have this mindset that you don't really have too much of this, like for example, they would look at our house and say, okay, this house is too big, everything from the level of food we have to eat and stuff, okay, to even just the amount of clothing and all that type of stuff we have, and the amount of accessories we are able, and say this is kind of excessive. You don't need all that type of stuff, which I don't know if I really agree with, or more specifically, I don't really agree with. And I just feel like in general our quality of life would of course fall down, and I'm not saying like we'd go back to like how it was in the medieval ages where they had no middle class, but I'm not going that far, but I just feel like the quality of how good our lives will just fall dramatically, and it would start to kind of suck, and it wouldn't be as enjoyable, to be honest with you, okay? And that is the truth, because in the end of the day, I know people are going to say, well, how do you know it's going to be the British? Well, the truth of the matter is, who else would it be? Because what we're going to rely on Europe overall? Europe, that's your question. The idea that there would be some European Union has already been debunked. Everyone used to think that, especially in the late 2000s or late 2010s, but with a lot of things that happened, everything from, I think they got rid of, well, all I know is that they had that it became largely unpopular among a lot of Europeans to have a European Union, and of course with Brexit as well. The truth of the matter, the idea of a unified Europe, pretty much unifying to pretty much represent the West, if God forbid America loses a spot, is a myth, and that's simply for the TV shows and movies. Okay, that wouldn't happen in real life. The British people are, the Europeans more like, are not as unified as they have you believe that they are. Let alone the fact that every other European nation, from what I actually know, are not as organized as the British. So obviously the British are the Western world. Okay, so the truth of the matter is, I just don't think our lives would be as good if we had America, because America encourages excess. Which, even though yes, it does create really shitty people who become really spoiled and have absolutely horrible personalities, I also feel like if we didn't have them, at the same time, our quality of lives would drop dramatically. We wouldn't have as much things that we take so for granted. Yes, there are some annoying people who do become very spoiled, but you can't let annoying people ruin things for everybody else. And that is the truth, and that's my first point, okay? And to the second point of why I feel the world would suck is I just feel like, we would have greater media censorship. Like things that you would take so for granted, like even just being able to go online and say any swear word you can imagine, and being able to just be able to freely express yourself on any opinion without it being deemed, impolite to the general public and all this bullshit that the British do all the time. I feel like we would lose that, because not only would Britain be the one pretty much censor West, China as well is the only country that, of course, really, well, no shit, if America loses its status as superpower, to be honest with you, they'll be the number one superpower, and they are extremely obsessed with media censorship. So in short, to sum things up, to be quite blunt and honest with you, if both countries who are going to pretty much represent the world at this point are obsessed with media censorship, how the hell are we as everyday people actually going to have the freedom to say what the fuck we want to say? It's common sense 101. We wouldn't have any freedom, to be quite blunt and honest with you. And if we don't have as much freedom, our lives are not going to be as enjoyable. And unlike the first point where, yes, it is something that is not something to be happy about, the second point is definitely something very, very, very serious. And that's not something to joke about at all, because anytime you start limiting people's freedom of expression, it usually always leads to a tyrannical government. Not to mention, obviously, Europeans, specifically the British Europeans, who represent the West at that point, are also extremely anti-gun. So I feel like we'd also lose our ability to have firearms. And if you have people who don't have firearms and not able to say what they want to say, that kind of is a guarantee you're going to live in a tyrannical government. So in short, to answer your question, I feel like if we lose America's superpower, I feel the world would suck way more, than it already kind of does. There's so many things for that matter, but even want more, So we don't just live lives that are mediocre and forgettable, but we live lives that are memorable, okay? And that's the honest truth. So anyway, that is why I believe the world's better off with America as the number one superpower. So another question, of course, that's going to come up, of course, is what is a lesson? Well, the lesson is that this is why you shouldn't just listen to everything you hear people say, because nowadays everyone says, "Oh, my America sucks. The world would be better off without it." And yes, there is a portion of America that is fucking annoying, specifically Republicans, conservative stuff, but we also have to use our head, and realize it would kind of suck without it. So that is the lesson that there is to learn, and that's all I have to say.